I'm Dr. David A. Palmer, educator, parent, and neurodivergent human, here to tell the truth really no one else will say out loud. Welcome to Rewire the Response. Today's episode is entitled Meltdowns, Shutdowns, and Scatter States. Yeah, I'm going there. Because the way we talk about these behaviors, it's all wrong. And I'm done watching families and educators drown in shame over what is, at its core, nervous system survival. So if you're raising, teaching, or loving a neurodivergent kid who blows up, disappears, or just seems everywhere all at once, you're in the right place. And by the end of this episode, you'll walk away with a powerful reframe and the chance to get a free guide that'll help you respond, not react, when things get hard. So let's dig in. First thing I want to get straight is this. Meltdowns are not manipulation. Shutdowns are not disobedience. And scattered states are not a discipline issue. What are they? They're nervous system responses, not personal attacks, not attention seeking, not the result of quote unquote bad parenting or poor class management. I remember when our kids were small, one in particular, and we were waiting in line at a major theme park, and as you could tell, it was really crowded. There were too many people pushing in line. There were too many flashing lights. It was too loud, really too much of everything. And then suddenly, you guessed it, they lost it. Screaming, crying, hitting, and me standing there, sweating bullets, trying not to freak out, trying to figure out how to regulate myself. And it wasn't that my child was being bad. It was that they were in nervous system overdrive. They had a body that was saying, I can't hold all of this anymore. So hear me when I say this. Your child is not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. And you're not failing. Nope, you're in survival mode too. I'm sure you've probably heard of fight or flight response, right? Well, but what most folks don't realize is that there are really 4 stress states. Yes, there's fight, that's the yelling, hitting, resisting. There's the flight, that's the bolting, the eloping, the avoidance, the zoning out. Then you got your freeze, which is going still, shutting down, going mute. And then one we don't talk about a lot, but I will be talking about more as this podcast goes on, fawn. Masking, people-pleasing, overcompensating. Now, picture this. A classroom chair screeches across the floor. A parent raises their voice without meaning to. As a teacher, we always know you have that surprise fire drill that blares throughout the classroom, throughout the school. To you, it's a Tuesday. To your child's or student's nervous system, it's war. So this is why they explode. This is why they collapse. This is why they scatter. Because their brain and their body, they're trying to find safety. Because behavior is the language of the nervous system. And we've got to get better at listening and learning that language if we're truly going to support our neurodivergent and trauma-impacted kids. Now, there's a quote that changes really how I show up. Even on the days when I am so dysregulated, I'm running on fumes, I'm just about done. And this quote comes from Dr. Russell Barkley, who says, "The child who needs love the most will ask for it in the most unloving ways." Let me say that again. Let it sink in. The child who needs love the most will ask for it in the most unloving ways. What does that mean? It means when a child is screaming, hiding, or spinning out, what they're really saying is, am I still lovable like this? Am I still safe like this. They're asking for help. They're asking, how will you respond as the adult? If we react harshly with punishments, then we will reinforce shame. But if we respond with presence, that's when we will start to build trust. So what do we do when all of this chaos hits? Let me give you 3 R's. First, regulation, then relationship, then reason. Regulation, relationship, then reason. So when your kid's melting down, your first job is not to fix it. Don't try to first reason it out. Use that logic we like to use, or the barrage of questions we ask when this is happening. Our job is to be the calm anchor that they don't have yet and that they need most. So what does this look like, this regulation? First, we're going to do it with them. We're not going to tell them to calm down. We're not going to tell them they need to settle down. We're not going to yell at them to stop it. We're going to breathe with them. We're going to regulate with them, not at them. And we're going to be very mindful of certain things like our voice level. We want to lower it. We want to think about our eyes. A lot of times when these events happen, especially in public, our eyebrows furl and our face scrunches. And so we want to soften our eyes and our facial expression. We want to relax our body posture. Now, I know it's hard because we're tensed up. We need to say less, and we need to offer safety. We're either saying or we're expressing this. I'm here. You're safe. I'm not leaving. I'm right here. You're safe. I'm not going anywhere. When they shut down, sit nearby. No demands, just presence. When they are scattering, don't force them to focus. We need to ground them. Ground them in using their senses gently, maybe one sensory anchor at a time. What is it that you are hearing right now? What is it that you are seeing right now? What is it even in your body that you are feeling right now? Without judgment, without saying, oh, okay, well, do this, this, and this, and this. No, we need to get used to this idea of regulation first. Then we build on that relationship that we have. And then when the time's right, we can help them know and learn. But in the moment, we're trying to get that nervous system from that red alert zone or that blue shutdown or that fawn zone. We want to get them into that homeostasis, that place where they not only know they're safe, but they can actually feel that safety, and they're getting it all from you. You need some suggestions? Let me give you a few more. I would just say that you would be able to show them that the safety that they're feeling is authentic. If they're ready to breathe, and sometimes I find that when a student's upset, I don't tell them to breathe. I just start doing that near them. I start breathing, showing my calmness, and they start to pick up on that. You can work on things like tactile anchors, touch, give the body something real to hold on to. Maybe it's a fidget toy, a squeeze ball, stress putty, something like that. Maybe it's something like a weighted lap pad. Maybe you have some different texture cards that you have available, the ones that have maybe some bumps or fuzzy or smooth. Sometimes a change in temperature, like a cold metal water bottle or an ice cube wrapped in a towel, that can kind of start getting that nervous system back into where it needs to be. Again, visual anchors are very helpful. If you're at home in a classroom, you might have a calm glitter jar. You might have a look and find puzzle book, something to kind of get their mind off of that sense of imminent danger and really going outside, nature. Those are always helpful. Sometimes sound, your calm voice, a slow, steady beat. Sometimes, and we carried these when our kids were younger, those noise-canceling headphones. Now they have things like loop earplugs that go in and dampen that sound. Sometimes a familiar scent or a taste like a mint or a piece of chocolate or something along that line. I had a student, I remember, where movement really worked. This big proprioceptive vestibular movement and pushing against the wall, or going out on the jungle gym and just hanging there, or doing some chin-ups or something, or sometimes maybe just some rhythmic rocking. Really, you, in building that relationship, are going to know which of these are really helpful to them and which ones are not. And I find that really getting that feedback from our kids is so important. Just remember, you don't need to add more rules or guidelines. You don't need to keep talking to make it better. That's my mistake. I tend to want to, tell them and assure them that everything's okay, but sometimes I just need to shut up. Don't appeal again to this logic, reason. Don't ask all these questions. It won't work. You need regulation. They need regulation, and it's going to start with us. So let me ask you something that might sting a little, but I want you to really think about this. When your child is most dysregulated, who are you becoming? When your child, think about that a moment, when a child or a student is so dysregulated, level 1 to 10, they're 1,000. Who are you as an individual, as the adult, becoming? Are you becoming the adult who offers safety and does it consistently? Or are you one who begins to mirror the chaos? They yell, you yell louder. They move, you move more abruptly. And remember, I say this all the time, is that it's not perfection that we're after, it's presence. And that's really how we rewire the response. We understand that it's not perfection, but it's learning how to regulate ourselves in a presence that really comes alongside and helps our kiddos. I think this really works, and I know that it may seem impossible at times, but working with a third grade teacher a while back, who she had an especially tough group that year with a handful of neurodivergent students and students with trauma histories. And one of them really just caused the focus to go on him. And he began to scatter and, get agitated, move about every day. And it happened about 1:30 p.m. He couldn't sit. He would keep dropping his pencils. He would interrupt. He'd start, tapping, making a lot of noise, bouncing between tasks. When the teacher would ask a question, he'd answer them and just right away, or he would ask questions and not wait for the answer. And unfortunately, many other adults in the school just said that he's acting out. He's just trying to get everybody's attention. What do we need to do to stop this behavior? But the teacher, as we worked together, started to see something different. And I remember one day she pulled me aside and said, as I watch him closely, I realized that at 1:30, that's right after he comes back from PE, and it's right before our math review. And I think that he's stuck between overstimulation and dread. What a wise teacher. It wasn't, what do we have to do to fix this behavior? She became a behavior communication detective and said, I see what's going on here. It's no coincidence that at 1:30, this type of overstimulation from being at PE and running around and being competitive, which he liked to do, and dread, because math was one of those areas where he struggled with quite a bit. And so you begin to see that he's not misbehaving, he's unraveling. And so instead of correcting him, she started prepping before that scatter hit. And so she would give him, as he came into the classroom, a small sensory object that he really liked, that really helped. She would oftentimes turn off one of the rows of overhead lights that was providing a lot of stimulation. He had something on his desk that just gave him direction where to start. Just start here. Start with this. And it was something that was non-threatening, something that helped him in that transition. And then, of course, she softened her energy. And the difference was he didn't just magically begin focusing, but he did over time begin to stop spinning out. And she didn't demand his regulation. What did she do instead? She offered him hers. And that's what we're talking about. And that's true leadership. And that's what it means to rewire the response. So I want to zoom out for just a second here. One of the formative books that I've read is by Dr. Mona Delahooke, and it's called Beyond Behaviors. And through many illustrations, she shows us that behavior is really just the tip of the iceberg. And so what we see, these meltdowns, shutdowns, and scatter, are only about 10% of the iceberg. There's 90% beneath the surface. What's going on? There's so much that we're not seeing immediately. We're not seeing the child's sensory sensitivities, things like light and sound. We don't see their trauma history. We're not seeing a nervous system that is constantly scanning the environment for danger. We're not seeing their unmet need for safety. And so Dr. Delahooke talks about neuroception, which is a widely used term that refers to our brain's subconscious ability to detect safety or threat. Neuroception is what's going on around me. Is my environment safe, or am I needing to be in this place where I'm prepared for threat? And when a child's neuroception signals danger, that's when you see that 10%, the behavior shifts, not out of defiance, but out of protection. And so instead of asking, how do I stop this behavior? And believe me, there's a lot of answers out there that are not helpful at all. We should be asking, what is this behavior telling me about what's going on inside this kid? Because listen, true change starts not with control, but with connection. So how can we build that connection? That's what we're thinking about. We're thinking about our own regulation, and then we're also thinking about connection, or as I said before, relationship. Then we can use reason to help us know what kind of tools will work, or what kind of environments that we need to do, and how we can enhance the environment and where our kids are at. But honestly, it comes through those three things. First, our regulation, building that relationship through connection, and then we're in a place where we can begin to find the reasons why a child may be behaving and acting in a certain way, understanding that it is a nervous system response. It is a neuroception response. So think about that the next time you see what we would call a quote-unquote big behavior, and ask yourself, when a child is becoming dysregulated, who are you becoming? Now, I have on my website a free guide that I made just for you in light of this. It's called Rewire the Response, 5 Myths Keeping You in Survival Mode. And you can check it out in the show notes, or you can go to my website at drdavidapalmer.com/free guide. And it'll help you spot the myths that are keeping us stuck and what we should do instead. And I tell you, I hear these myths all the time, and so I know that they will strike in you a fire that will get you to a place of seeing things differently and responding instead of reacting. And if this episode landed, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me at David at drdavidapalmer.com. That's my email. You can find me on Instagram at drdavidapalmer. Let's just start the conversation. Let's keep it going, because Again, this work isn't about managing our kids. It's about leading them through all these things that they're feeling on the inside. And by walking through our own regulation and our own connection. And so meltdowns don't mean they're broken. Shutdowns don't mean you failed. And scatter doesn't mean they're lost. It just means their brains and their bodies are asking, am I safe? And it's our job to answer, yes, you are now. Until next time, let's continue as we rewire the response.